What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day. All sorts of fired up to be here with you. A jam-packed show, as is always the case, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. Here's how you can take part in what we've got cooking. You can give us a ring at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. You can hit us on the text line today at 71307 to start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Here is what is coming up on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere this afternoon, my friends. Baseball's number one problem is highlighted on the show. Are the Braves a viable World Series contender? We will tackle that. Our ACC and SEC team preview series continues. Oh, yes, it most certainly does. It continues this afternoon with yet again another surprise. Can you predict what the surprise is today? Have you ever had in your life an ultimate how you like me now moment, right? The man kept you down and then all of a sudden you got over. Yeah, that happened in professional sports last night. We'll tackle that with you. Want you to be thinking about that for 4:40 p.m. What is in your life? What is your all-time best how you like me now moments? We've got the top 5 at 5. We've got the most flammable relationships in sports. We have Truth Serum. And my friends, we have the Sweet 16 of our Upstate's favorite athlete bracket. Folks, the matchup today highlights to me how and why the Upstate is one of the best athlete-producing regions in America. You're not going to believe this matchup is in the Sweet 16 that is coming up at 4:20 p.m. today. So anyway, folks, I was thinking about this today, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and it really has hit me, right? Just how many revolutionary athletes we have right now in sports. A couple weeks ago, we talked about this, and things got a little hot and bothered when a texter wanted me to include Novak Djokovic. And I said, okay, he's great, but I don't know how he revolutionized the game, right? I can look at Usain Bolt and say he revolutionized track and field. I can look at Steph Curry and say, yeah, he made a bad shot become a good shot, and he's the only one that can make said shot. And I was thinking about that, the true number of revolutionary athletes that we have today in sports, and it just got me thinking bigger picture, as in super biggest picture ever. And it had me thinking, ladies and gentlemen, about my all-time top 10 athletes in the history of the world. All right? The history of the world, the history of mankind. Who are the all-time 10 best athletes in sports? Put your thinking caps on, my friends. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663 is the number. I'd like to start out by telling you who did not make my top 10 list. And, you know, this time of year, folks, right, I hear people say this sometimes, well, it's peak off-season content. There is no off-season for us. We do these kinds of topics all year long. You know, there is no time of year where we're trying to waste time. We're always trying to be interesting, compelling, entertaining. And I was thinking about this today. I'm like, I've never done this. In 4.5 years here in the Upstate, I've never done the segment that I'm doing now. The greatest athletes of all time. So who did not make the cut? This was brutally difficult on me. Muhammad Ali did not make the cut. Too many losses. Not enough true power for Muhammad Ali, right? Danced like a butterfly, stung like a bee. All that is true. Was a true maestro in the ring. All that is true, but best athlete ever, I had to ixnay Muhammad Ali. I also had to ixnay Florence Griffith Joyner. She's got the fastest time in the women's 100-meter dash ever, okay? To put this into perspective for you guys, typically a women's 100-meter dash is won in a time of about 11 seconds. Florence Griffith Joyner won in 10.49 seconds. She's a half a second better. Half a second, okay? Think about how long that is in a sport that is decided by oftentimes thousands of seconds. She's got by far the fastest women's time ever. Florence Griffith Joyner did not make my top 10. Simone Biles did not make my top 10 as well. Is she one of the greatest athletes ever? Perhaps. But in the last Olympics, her head got in her own way. And it was interesting to me. There is pressure on athletes left and right. There's a ton of pressure on them. And I think because everyone felt empathy and compassion, they didn't realize just the sizable opportunity that Simone Biles let slip away. These athletes are under immense pressure, and it's not fair to them. And they've got so many people depending on them and relying on them. That said, being able to compartmentalize that and still perform your best is a big part of it, man. And I don't know, she was largely absent of the last Olympic Games because she had a case of the yips, or in her sport, it's called the dropsies, where she just can't complete basic maneuvers anymore. Basic, easy for me to say, right? I'm sitting here being the skinniest fat guy ever on the radio. So anyway, without further ado, those people missed my list. Simone Biles, Muhammad Ali, Florence Griffith Joyner did not make it. What I have for you right now, my friends, is my actual list with a one-word or phrase description as for how and why each person is on this list. Hello to all the friends at YouTube as well. The YouTube page, be sure you check it out, folks. YouTube, the Fan Upstate on YouTube. So open up your phone, open up the YouTube app, go to the Fan Upstate. You'll see us right here. You'll get to see the inner workings of the show, how it is that we do the magic that we do. And if you would be so kind, please do subscribe if you have a minute. Number 10 on my all-time best athletes in the world list. Are you ready? Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. Mark Ryan, he wasn't a great athlete. Really? Well, Mark Ryan, I read his scouting report, and his scouting report said that didn't have the best arm, isn't a fast runner. Well, let me tell you what Thomas Edward Patrick Brady did do. All right, here is my word or phrase for him. He beat Father Time. And he is the only... Father Tom beat Father Time. He's the only athlete in the history of sport who's done that. The greats age differently. We learn that Thomas Edward Patrick Brady is the all-time GOAT, the all-time great. Number 10, Tom Brady beat Father Time. Number 9, my 9th best athlete all-time, any sport, history of sports. Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders is number 9 to me. Why? What is my word or phrase for Barry Sanders? Rubber band. He could stop and start and hit the brakes without skidding, and your brakes blush and are jealous of what Barry Sanders was able to do. He had a superhuman ability to stop on a dime, change direction, accelerate incredibly fast, and not ever tear any ACLs or anything like that. The dude was a rubber band. Pull it, stretch it, let it go. It'll fly very quickly in the opposite direction. Barry Sanders was superhuman. And have you noticed, we have never seen anything close to Barry Sanders again. And Barry Sanders is great for this market and great for our era, right? Because we all remember him. We all remember him. Barry Sanders was the rubber band.
Yeah, but why isn't Barry Sanders put on this pedestal in the same way that Michael Jordan is put on a pedestal? Like, was he just not marketed the right way when he was a star? You know, if he's as great as he is, and I'm not saying that he's not, why isn't Barry Sanders more of a household name even with young athletes today?
Retired early. That's why. That's the reason, Diesel. He retired early. And therefore he doesn't have the historical stats that other people do. He didn't have the longevity that other people do. And he was one of those dudes, when he decided he was done, there was no chance he was ever coming back. But I've got Barry Sanders in my top 10, Barry Sanders at number 9. Number 8 on my list, the Bambino, Babe Ruth. One word or phrase, intimidation. The most intimidating player, I think, all time in any sport. Pitching, hitting, you name it, unbelievable. The one guy that is a legend in every single era. You know, the most valuable baseball card of all time is a T206 Honus Wagner. It is now purchased for about $9 million. It was in a tobacco card set. Babe, you know, that guy, not everybody knows Honus Wagner. Younger listeners right now don't know who Honus Wagner is. Everybody knows who Babe Ruth is. There's a candy bar named after him, right? Everyone through history knows who Babe Ruth is. We had Dave Wells from the Yankees on recently, asked him about his love for Babe Ruth. The first guy to truly be great at hitting and pitching, Babe Ruth, is number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my list. Give me Lionel Messi, the best soccer player of our generation. Don't give me Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, Cristiano Ronaldo is a striker. Lionel Messi, the word is magician. That is what he is. That's what he does. I can't wait to see him at MLS, and I look forward to MLS getting to the place where they're no longer a retirement tour for the best players in world history. But I think, you know, Lionel Messi, to me, is the greatest soccer player of all time. He is. And that's why he's the only soccer player that shows up on my list. Number 6, best athlete of all time, Bo Jackson. Bo freaking Jackson. And it's not that he played football and baseball. And it's not that he played both very, 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 very well. Okay? Bo Jackson is number 6 on my list because he was one of the most superhuman athletes of all time. Diesel, there is a 40-yard dash time of Bo Jackson that is recorded at 4.12. Okay? 4.12. And he broke bats over his knee, over his head. There are highlights of him climbing up a wall to catch home runs sideways, like Spider-Man, like literally running up the wall sideways. His thighs were oak trees. He was a speeding bullet, a locomotive, all of those things rolled into one. On any best athlete list, I realize his career was cut short, but you can't find me 10 better athletes in the history of sports than one great Bo Jackson. That list just does not exist. So that, my friends, gets us from 10 to 6. From 10 to 6 on our all-time GOAT athlete list. And it's interesting. 1 through 5 was about as difficult as I could possibly be. 1 through 5 was about as brutally difficult as I could possibly devise. All right? Trying to figure out who number 1 was an exercise in impossibility. So I ask you guys that question. Greatest athletes all time, history of sports, who are they? 844 fan phone. That's 844-326-3663 is the number to get to us here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. Remember, we've got the Upstate's favorite athlete bracket now down to the Sweet 16, which means we have 8, 12, 2, 1, 15 matchups left before the whole bracket is done. 8 in this round, 4 in the Elite 8, 2 in the Final 4, 1 in the championship game. 15 matchups left. We will know who the Upstate's favorite athlete of all time is.
And it's posted on our Facebook and Twitter pages. So if you want to visualize the bracket, it's been pinned to the top of the Facebook and the Twitter pages at the Fan Upstate. And while you're there, click like on Facebook, click follow on Twitter. Help us build those numbers.
Guys, if you are commenting on the topic at hand, best athletes, if you could please make sure you also put those on our text line. Text to 71307. Start your text with the word fan, and away you go. We want to hear from you. Coming up next, how about we get to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is Offsides. This is Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day in and day out here on the show. So I'm opening today by sharing with you my top 10 athletes of all time. And Stephen Webb has posted on the YouTube page. I want to invite you guys to, again, get those comments on our text line, too, at 71307. Start your text with the word fan, and away you go. Typically, for me, it's easy to see them on the text line, so make sure you get them on the text line as well. Okay, so I have number 10, Tom Brady, 9, Barry Sanders, 8, Babe Ruth, 7, Lionel Messi, 6, Bo Jackson on my all-time best athletes list. That brings me to number 5. Number 5, all-time for me, is the one, the only Serena Williams. She is the only female on this list, but her place in the all-time top 10 is easy and solidified. Okay, I've been giving you a word or phrase for everybody in the top 10. Serena Williams is one of one. Okay, one of one. She is the only one of her kind. Because of her size, strength, speed, and athleticism, it was considered unfair for a number of years for her to be competing against women. She had to actually deal with that, okay? There wasn't anything biologically or physiologically wrong with Serena. She was just completely sculpted by God to do what she did, and that is kick other women's asses at her chosen field and her chosen sports. Serena Williams' best description is one of one. There was never one before her. There will never be one after her. And in her prime, there was no way you were beating her. Serena Williams, one of one. That leaves 4 people remaining. Number 4 for me, MJ, Michael Jordan, the greatest of all time. The word or phrase is GOAT. Come fly with me, slam dunk champion. There's been plenty of guys who can dunk and who can dunk very, very well, but a lot of times dunkers aren't great basketball players. Michael Jordan was everything wrapped into one piece. And you know why LeBron James has never done the slam dunk contest? This is my theory. He's never done the dunk contest because that would further separate Michael Jordan from him. Have you ever seen a truly spectacular LeBron James dunk? Truly spectacular. There was an alley-oop from Dwayne Wade one time. You know, that was pretty solid. But you never saw LeBron in the dunk contest because he knew that would further the gap between him and MJ. That MJ had something in his tool bag that he did not. And that was artistry in the air. The speed, the tenacity, the defense, the athleticism. The greatest of all time, 63 against the Boston Celtics, his first time in the playoffs. Michael Jordan, for me, is number 4. Now, here is where the list gets a little bit controversial. All right? Here is where it is. Here is where I go a little bit off the grid on you. And here's where everyone gets bent out of shape and everyone gets offended and everyone says, well, Mark Ryan, I've got a beef with you. Well, have a beef with me. Have a beef with me. It's my list, okay? It's my top 10. Watch sports my whole life. These are the 10 best athletes I've ever seen. Not just that I've ever seen, but that I've ever witnessed, right? I've witnessed Muhammad Ali. Witnessed Babe Ruth, storytelling, old videos, movies, etc. Know enough to know that he needs to be on that list. At number 3 on my list, on the medal stand of greatest athletes of all time, and the biggest objection you guys are going to have to this athlete is that we romanticize the past. We do not realize and acknowledge that anything we're watching today is that special. We only realize it when it's gone. Shohei Ohtani is my number 3 athlete all time. Shohei Ohtani, folks, is a rich man's Babe Ruth. Shohei Ohtani is a 10 as a hitter and a 9 as a pitcher. Babe Ruth was never that. Now, we're going to see numbers when Shohei Ohtani hits free agency that we've never seen in Major League Baseball before. The numbers, the price tag for Shohei Ohtani could reach $60, $70, $80 million a season. I don't think that's money well spent. I don't think one player makes a huge difference in the sport of baseball. Worth it in the NBA. LeBron James took the island of misfit toys in Cleveland to the NBA Finals. Not worth it in baseball. One player, 2 players. I mean, you can count Shohei Ohtani as 2 players, right? Doesn't make that much of a difference in terms of the won-loss column. So that's not a great deal. But in terms of totally dominating your sport and showing a level of diversity that the sport has never seen before in its existence, I don't think you guys truly respect and appreciate what Shohei Ohtani has done and what he continues to do. He is my number 3 athlete of all time, and my word or phrase for Shohei Ohtani is Mr. Baseball.
Tom Selleck is Mr. Baseball.
Yeah, the real Mr. Baseball. You got my drift, right? Mr. Baseball. We've never seen it before. Doubt it, hate it, but again, as 1 year turns into 3, 5, 8, and 10 years down the line, you're going to know exactly what I'm saying is totally right. You know, whenever Shohei Ohtani stops doing both, maybe when he's 36, he'll just be a pitcher or something. We've never seen anything like this in the history of the sports. We've never seen anything like this in any sport. You know, you only play Iron Man in high school. If you're Charles Woodson, if you play a little bit of Iron Man, defensive back and kick and punt returns, it allows you to win the Heisman in college football. But you largely don't see it anywhere else. And Shohei Ohtani is doing it. He is the 3rd best athlete of all time. Number 2 on my list, 2nd best athlete of all time. You really have no idea what I'm going to say, don't you? This is beautiful. Like, there's not like obvious choices here. When we do like the best programs in college football, you know that Georgia's going to be up there, Alabama's going to be up there, Clemson's going to be up there. You know those 3 are going to be up there. You have no idea who 2 and 1 are on my list, do you? Because this list would probably be different for each and every one of you. Number 2 on my list, the word or phrase for him is lightning, and it's Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt is a human Lamborghini. He is not the fastest man in the world. He is the fastest man who's ever lived. And like Bo Jackson, must have inclusion on this list because he did things on the track that we did not believe were possible from the human body. We never thought the times that he posted were possible. 9.59 in the 100-meter dash. 9.59. Really. Otherworldly times, otherworldly speed. You know, my favorite Usain Bolt video is not even something he did on the track. Do you remember those This Is SportsCenter commercials, Diesel? You know, you'd have the This Is SportsCenter commercial and LeBron James would be sitting on a throne. Or you have a favorite This Is SportsCenter commercial?
Oh, yeah. It was the 2 guys were waiting on an elevator and the doors open and the New Jersey Devil is inside the elevator. And they say, going up. He goes, nope. It points down and they say, we'll catch the next one.
Yeah.
Love that one.
Fantastic. One of my favorite moments, right? And this is more impressive to me than anything Usain Bolt did. And they kept the raw video and they've posted the raw video. They had Usain Bolt at ESPN. And for like a day, and he did what's called the car wash, which is when he goes on every single show over there. And they filmed a This Is SportsCenter commercial, which is him in his Jamaican uniform and everybody at ESPN. and they get a chance to race Usain Bolt. And the race begins, Diesel. And keep in mind, ESPN has guys like Keyshawn Johnson, has guys like Jay Williams.
Well, they got old guys like Jay Williams and
That's
Keyshawn
true.
Johnson.
That's true. That's true. But still former guys. And everybody is sprinting, Diesel. And Usain Bolt is yogging. Okay? He is yogging. And in the middle of his jog, Diesel, he develops a 10-yard lead. In terms of just like a casual jog, he's got 10 yards, and everybody's huffing and puffing and making the ugly running face and everything like that. And he's got a 10-yard lead just doing a trot. And I've never seen anything like that before. Never seen anything like that before. One of my favorite videos of all time. He added showmanship to the race, would pause, would look behind him, would be like, where is everybody? And he'd do that in the middle of the race. It's got to be on the list. He's number 2. He's the fastest human who's ever lived. And folks, you know, when you start talking about unbreakable records in sports, unless there is some performance-enhancing drug that is out there that hasn't been invented yet, nobody's going to beat what Usain Bolt did. It's just never going to happen, okay? There's never going to be another him.
I think I know who your number 1 is going to be.
Ooh, Diesel.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I know.
Give me the initials of number 1.
RB.
No. But I don't even know who you picked. I don't even know who you picked, Diesel.
Ricky Bobby.
Oh.
He's the best there is.
Okay. Number 1 on my list. Let me give you the word or the phrase first, okay? Number 1 on my list, greatest athlete of all time. My word or phrase for this athlete is fish. Michael Phelps. Greatest athlete of all time. Dude had gills, okay? Like that's all I can describe it to you. And the weird thing about Michael Phelps was he looked like a fish. His body, he was not born like you or I. You know, his body didn't look right. He looked like Gumby. He did this weird thing with his arms. We'd flap them back and forth. And I'm like, did anyone else tear a rotator cuff watching him do that? His body didn't look like any other swimmer. You know, he didn't have like the male V. His body looked elastic. The way he never had to come up for air, I was convinced he had gills. So, you know, I think what's amazing, folks, is that God, all right, has created now the perfect athlete in so many different sports, right? LeBron James is the perfect basketball player. He can do everything. Shohei Ohtani, the perfect baseball player. Usain Bolt, the perfect sprinter. Michael Phelps, the perfect swimmer. And it's like God is just up there toying with us. You know, who do I feel like blessing with these otherworldly gifts? It's incredible. It's incredible, my friends. I've got Michael Phelps 1, Usain Bolt 2, Shohei Ohtani 3, Michael Jordan 4, Serena Williams 5, Bo Jackson 6, Lionel Messi 7, Babe Ruth 8, Barry Sanders 9, and Tom Brady number 10. My greatest athletes list of all time. 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us.
Shout out to a newbie on the YouTube chat, Zach Daniels. Great name, by the way. Zach Daniels, new first time here today. Appreciate that. I think you got Shohei Ohtani way too high. He's 6 years into his MLB career. And for you to put him, would you have him 4? Third? That is insanely. I'm not saying he couldn't get there one day.
He's there now.
No, he's not.
He's there now.
No, he's not. He's never won anything. He's a great player on a crap team. Okay, so what? But look, you got to do it more than, you know, just a few seasons. You got to go win something. You've got to be transcendent. People on the East Coast don't even know who he is. He's not. I mean, he is a great player, and he has the potential to get on this list one day. But to put him on the list, that is captive to the moment, recency bias, all that rolled into one.
So the reality is, Diesel, you don't have to do any of that when it's just best athlete. All I need are my eyes and what my eyes see.
Okay,
And
well,
the
what about Benny the Jet Rodriguez? I mean, he was great too. You're not putting him on this list.
And the realization that I've never seen anything like he's done before. It's not about career accomplishments. It's not about longevity. It's not about recognition. I have witnessed something that I've never seen before and likely will never see again. And so the longevity doesn't matter as much. Bo Jackson didn't have the longevity. Barry Sanders didn't have the longevity. I knew when I was witnessing something that I would never see again. Texter says Tiger Woods, the only athlete that truly changed the sport, both professionally and recreationally. Texter, I can't even tell you that golf is a sport conclusively. I can't even tell you that. Okay. So I certainly can't put Tiger Woods on a best athlete list. If you would like to see Tiger Woods compete athletically with Shohei Ohtani, Usain Bolt, Bo Jackson, I think you'd be very disappointed at the results, even in his prime. Mark, if I don't hear Serena Williams and Jim Brown in your top 5, I will scream loudly. Serena Williams made it. Jim Brown did not. I don't think you can name me one specific skill that Jim Brown had that nobody else possessed in the history of sports. Barry Sanders was stop, start, change of direction, right? Everyone else would tear ACLs. Jim Brown was all around great, right? All around fantastic. Did he run a faster 40 than Bo Jackson? No. Did he have better stop, start, change of direction, juking ability than Barry Sanders? No. He might be the best running back who's ever played the game. Rest in peace, the late, great Jim Brown. We had a Jim Brown tribute earlier this year. I can't have him in my top 10 athletes ever. We usually measure GOAT tier by contribution and championship, so therefore, although Messi is GOAT tier, Pele is the GOAT with 3 world championships. Again, Texter, this is not a GOAT list. This is a best athlete list, right? And Shohei Ohtani in the sport of baseball can be great without ever winning anything. That's the nature of baseball. One player doesn't make that big of a difference. Texter says Bo Jackson definitely belongs on the list. In addition to being a 2-sport star, he also ended the Boz, Brian Bosworth, when he ran his ass over at the goal line. Never heard from that clown again.
Now, if we did a GOAT trash talkers list, Brian Bosworth is on that list because Brian Bosworth goaded the Seattle fan base into buying T-shirts that say, "We hate the Boz." And they bought them. He was the one selling you T-shirts that said, "We hate the Boz." Or wait, he played for Seattle. He sold Broncos fans "We hate the Boz" T-shirts. It's brilliant.
He is, and he was. Trash talking is an art too, Diesel. Let's not get that twisted. Michael Phelps is double jointed, so says Pizza Guy. Damn, Mark, you really hate Tiger, don't you? How is he not top 10? Again, Texter, I'm not even convinced that golf is a sport by our definition of a sport, okay? Golfers, to me, are not these elite level athletes. Outside of hand-eye coordination, what is Tiger Woods' unbelievable athletic feat? We're talking about athleticism here. Best athletes ever. Steph Curry revolutionized three-point shooting. He should have been on the list. You're not going to like this, Texter. You're not going to like what I'm about to say, and I'm as big a Steph Curry fan as you'll find anywhere. Steph Curry is an average athlete. Steph Curry's Superman power is his number one skill is not his shooting, it's his IQ. It's his hunger and drive and work ethic, then shooting and ball handling. He's an average athlete. Dion scored a touchdown and hit a home run in the same week. Primetime Sanders was absolutely positively considered for best athlete ever. Absolutely positively considered. What kept him off the list is that, he had otherworldly speed, right? Bo Jackson was a mutant. And Deion Sanders was never really in baseball what Bo Jackson was. That kept him off the list. Texter says, Mark, Jim Brown was an all-world lacrosse player too, not a best athlete. Bollocks. I only have 10 spots, Texter. I only have 10 spots. The 10 people that are on the list all had a skill, all had a trait athletically that I'd never seen before. Going by Mark's logic, then Pat Mahomes has to be there. He's Manning and Rodgers all in one. Brady is on there, text UNC Chris, because the otherworldly skill that he had was he beat Father Time. And he's the only athlete ever to beat Father Time. That's what put Tom Brady on the list. Maybe Pat Mahomes will make a play at some point that we just can't believe. And that play alone will get him on the list, like a Jadeveon Clowney type of play, but at quarterback, right? Maybe that'll happen. It hasn't happened yet. He is one of the most innovative players we've ever seen at the quarterback position, but not a contender for my best athlete top 10 of all time. 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us on the show. Open the show today with a fun discussion, my top 10 all-time athletes in sports history. All right. Coming up next on the show, we've got our ACC and SEC team preview series coming up at 4 o'clock p.m. this afternoon. We look forward to bringing that to you. But up next, what is your best How You Like Me Now moments? That's next. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your time. Folks, thank you so much for the participation on this. Look, I know you're never going to have everyone agree on a list like this. That's why it's my list. And I act like it's, I am the judge, jury, and executioner, and my decision is final. I act like that because it's fun, right? But in the end, like I realize there is no right or wrong answer. Just like we're all products of our experiences, right? We all have issues. We all have baggage, and all of that is based on the experiences we've had in life. We all have favoritism towards those athletes that we've seen that have dared to make us dream. And every athlete on this list has dared to make me dream. Tom Brady, for the last 10 years, has had me convinced, you could play in the NFL because Tom Brady is playing in the NFL, and Tom Brady is your age. Diesel, you're 38, right?
39.
You're 39.
Yeah.
Diesel, around 40 or 41, you're going to hit that day where you go to look up the athletes that are older than you, still playing, and there are none. And that is a sad day. That is a sad day, because then you'll realize, even in your wildest dreams, you'll no longer even dream about it at night. You're no longer of the age to participate in professional sports.
In my mind, I'm still just a few years older than the guys playing college football. And that is false.
Right.
False.
Right.
It helps that you and I are in a profession where we get to be immature.
Oh, yeah.
Like our profession allows us to stay kids in a lot of ways.
It most certainly does. Most certainly does. Diesel, I can tell on the YouTube channel that folks have taken their assignment seriously. You want to refresh the folks in the YouTube feed, the assignment that they've given them as we invite you guys to join in on this party atmosphere, folks, that we are creating. We've got a new channel. It's the YouTube channel. There's so many different ways now to consume the show, right? Which is what you got to do to thrive in this era. We are on terrestrial radio, right? So you can listen to us in your cars, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, 1330 AM in Anderson and Clemson. Then if you get spotty reception somewhere, you can open the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Put in the Fan Upstate. We're right there as well. Crystal clear reception. Plug us into your car. We'll play like new. And over the last couple of months, Diesel and I started our YouTube show feed over the last couple of months. Now, our show has only been doing that for a couple of months now, right? And to witness the growth that we've seen in just a couple of months is awesome. So, Diesel, can you reset the assignment for the amazing P1s? I'm looking at J.D. Wyatt, Mad Kraft, Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla, Brian Pettit, all these guys in there right now. You gave him an assignment yesterday. I like that.
Yeah, everyone's assignment is to get one new person watching the YouTube stream and commenting on the YouTube stream. Just bring a friend. That's literally all we're asking you to do. Bring a friend. And then when that new friend comes along, their job is now to bring a friend to the show. So like the job is never done. You do it one time. That's great, but you should go out and do it again, right? You should that should be the goal, is to get all your friends in here chatting. And we've had a couple of guys bring new people into the stream. I know Dan B has brought Just Jess to the stream. I know that Madcraft brought Dalton to the stream. JD brought his wife, Cara. Not Kara. I said it wrong yesterday. Cara brought her to the stream. There's a couple of guys who are in here. I don't know who brought you to the stream. So whether you just stumbled in or you were suggested by a friend to come and be a part of this thing, we appreciate you being here. And like Zach Daniels and Brian Pettit, who invited you into the stream? We want to know. We're not mad at them. We're happy that you're here. But your job now is to go find us one more person.
That's absolutely
and we're up to 14 people watching the stream now.
That's fantastic. We're going to grow this thing, man. We're going to get this thing. Wouldn't it be awesome to have 100 live viewers on the YouTube stream? Let's help us grow to that. You're wondering, okay, what is that like? How many people listen to the show? At any given moment, folks, on the radio in the upstate, there are between 6 and 10,000 people listening, right, at any given moment. But you start a new platform. You guys look at technology the same way I do. You got to be exposed to it with you kicking and screaming, wanting to avoid it. So we're giving you that little gentle push. You all have smartphones. Download the YouTube app. Just put in the Fan Upstate. You'll see us right there between 3 and 5:20 p.m. every single day. On the text line, a texter said, Mark, best athletes. What about Forrest Gump? Run, Forrest, run. Mark, you said Tom is the only athlete who has beaten Father Time. Do you not feel the same about LeBron? You can't beat Father Time, Tom, in your 30s. You can only beat Father Time in your 40s or your 50s. Texter says, Mark, Messi isn't even the best Argentinian player. Diego Maradona had 4 World Cup wins. Again, Texter, you're mistaking the assignment. It's not best player. It's best athlete. Best athlete ever. Who had an athletic ability that was superhuman and otherworldly that we've never seen before? Lionel Messi is a magician, a freaking magician. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody. All right, our ACC and SEC team preview series are coming your way next with another surprise. Then after that, we've got the Upstate's favorite athlete bracket, now down to the Sweet 16, my friends. And at 4:40, our very best How You Like Me Now moment. What was the moment in your life where you felt the most vindicated? Man, woman, bears, pets. We want to hear from you. Let us know. The ACC and SEC team preview series coming your way next here on Offsides. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. Eastern time today. Know you guys have a ton of choices out there. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your afternoon and evening. Folks, there are just some wonderful people in our sports media business. There are some snakes, no doubt. But this category is the former, not the latter. She's been coming on my show now, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And she knows her stuff, and she's awesome, and she's kind, and you're going to hear all of that. And like more importantly, she is so darn resilient because I have seen her own fan base turn on her a number of times. And she just keeps on ticking, man. There's nothing that slows her down. Our next guest is the daughter of Rod Gaspar, who scored the winning run in the 1969 World Series for the New York Mets. She talks about it often, and she joins us right now on the show. And congratulations is in order as well. Taylor Gaspar Estes is now a tier lead managing editor for 24/7 Sports. Taylor, so greatly appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. Man, that was an introduction. I'm very flattered by everything you said there. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Great to catch up with you. So how is tell me about this promotion. Congratulations are in order for you, Taylor. Tell me about this. How did this come to pass? Huge step up for you. We're super proud of you over this way. Tell us about the new gig.
Yeah, it was an opportunity that presented itself. I was first approached about it actually before last football season. So it was a lengthy process for the interview process and all of that. But, it was one of those rare opportunities that was really hard to turn down when it actually was offered to me. And so this was always what I hoped would be the next step in my media career. I probably thought it would happen when I was a little bit older. So the fact that it happened at the age I'm at is good, a good ahead of schedule type of opportunity. So it's been going really well. Just kind of like learning kind of the back end of CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports. So it's been really great.
That's fantastic. Taylor Gaspar Estes joining us here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, the Fan Upstate. So the surprise, Taylor, for our audience on the ACC and SEC team preview series is that we're getting to Texas a year early, but there is so much hype, Taylor, so much hoopla for this ultimate move. I felt we had to put Texas in there. We had to include them. What did you make of the SEC's decision to ensure that Oklahoma or Texas was on everybody's schedule in 2024?
I think that it just goes to show, I think, what the conference feels about adding those type of brands to the SEC. I know that Texas football has been down for a number of years. This is probably the year that I feel like they could actually have a chance at least to compete for a Big 12 title. And I don't think I've said that ever in my career in covering Texas, but I think that it just goes to show that these were, big names that they really wanted to bring into the conference. I know Texas A&M was not thrilled about the, behind the scenes conversations among the SEC officials, the officials at Texas and Oklahoma, and kind of being out of the loop. But it just goes to show how big of brands that both Texas and Oklahoma are. And, I feel like Oklahoma may have gotten a pretty difficult schedule for their first season in the SEC, maybe a little bit more difficult than Texas. But, I think that there's a lot of excitement, both from Texas and OU fan bases, and then also among SEC teams. So it's going to be really interesting. I mean, Mark, one thing you have to think about, at least for Texas, the biggest games that they've been able to have at their home stadium ever since A&M left the conference have been out of conference opponents. There's not really that big name in the Big 12 that Texas ever plays at home, because Texas and Oklahoma always play at a neutral site in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. So, this is going to really be a huge, a better, ticket like sale type of draw for the Texas fan base. I'd imagine that some of the season ticket prices are probably going to go up once the SEC schedule starts. But, being able to start the season hosting Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and Mississippi State, in addition to the road games, against historic rivals, Arkansas and Texas A&M. I mean, that's a schedule that I think Texas fans are salivating at.
Taylor, what is the internal conversation among Texas fans on their expectations going into the SEC? I mean, there's going to be a lot of proud teams and fan bases that'll have to get used to losing 1, 2, or 3 more games per season, even if they have arguably a more talented roster.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think the one thing between both Texas and Oklahoma fans is they're very proud of their teams. And so I would imagine that there's a lot of hope that they'll be able to compete in the SEC. I do think that, Texas in some of their recent games that they have played against SEC opponents. I mean, I know Alabama last year, they still lost, but everyone is expecting Texas to get blown out of that game. And it being a 1-point game was a pretty big shock. But, going back to the Sugar Bowl against Georgia, Texas was competitive against them. So I think that there might be maybe misguided confidence right now among Texas fans, especially. But, it's just a proud group. And so I think that they expect to compete. They expect to, be among the conversation. Texas has not been among the conversation, the national conversation for quite some time. But I do think that this season, the last season in the Big 12 happening when it did, is probably a really good thing for Texas, because this is a Texas roster that I think really is talented from top to bottom. There are very few glaring weak spots on the Texas roster. And I think that, Texas I would be a little surprised if they're not in the Big 12 title contention at the end of this upcoming football season. I think that only helps them, kind of show like, oh, we belong in the SEC. We belong to compete with the big dogs of college football, the Georgias, the Floridas, the Alabamas, all of them in the SEC. So I think that there's probably a maybe, as I said, a little bit misguided confidence among the fan bases right now, but I think that this is coming at a really good time for both programs too.
Can you describe, Taylor, the feeling that must exist? Like, I was trying to make this analogous to life in some way, Taylor. What Oklahoma and Texas leaving for greener pastures, then they're still competing in the same league. Obviously, the Big 12 wants, they would love nothing more than for neither of those two to win on their way out. It's almost like rooting for your ex-girlfriend. It's like when you break up, Taylor, but you're still living in the same house. I had to do that once. That was the most awkward experience of my life. Do you feel that like us against the world mentality when your own conference is rooting for you to fail?
Yeah, I think so. And especially, with the reworking of the Big 12 schedule for the 2023 football season. I mean, Texas probably got a little bit better again than Oklahoma did, but there were very few favors given to either one of those teams, and I think that you've just there's just been a different type of conversation more so about Texas and Oklahoma. Like, for instance, even going into Big 12 media days this year, Texas has historically always been the second day type of team. Ever since I covered Texas, they go on the last day of Big 12 media days, and they usually always separate Texas and Oklahoma, so they're not on the same day. Well, last year they were on the same day. And now this year, Texas is the first day. So I just feel like there's little tiny slights like that you kind of notice if you're paying attention. And I think it just goes to show that both Texas and Oklahoma officials and the fans want to get out of there, because you're right. It is kind of like living with your ex-girlfriend right now. I think that was also a big reason why they made such a big push to try to get out a year early instead of for the 2025 football season. So that was, they were able to make that work. But there's a lot of things that went on behind the scenes in order to make that work, that had to go on with TV contracts and everything like that for the Big 12 to, feel like they were made whole on that. But it's definitely not a comfortable situation. I think last year was the first year that you started seeing little things like the officials, officiating sometimes against both Texas and Oklahoma seemed to be a little lopsided. And I hate when people complain about officiating. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. But there were some games where I was like, this is interesting that this is how it's kind of working out with Big 12 officials in games that Texas and Oklahoma played in. So, yeah, there's definitely some hurt feelings, I think, and just more of a sense of urgency for Texas to compete, especially this year for a Big 12 title. So I think it could be the final, goodbye to the Big 12 if Texas were to actually, have their goal of winning a conference championship intact this year.
Taylor Estes, 24/7 Sports. Taylor, I asked this question of our Oklahoma Sooners guest yesterday. I'm going to ask you the same question. Now, the easy answer is all areas or everywhere. But what phase of Texas football is at risk of being exposed when you move to the SEC that needs the most immediate upgrade before 2024?
That's a great question. I think it's probably for Texas, if everything goes kind of as planned this year, then there's a possibility that Texas may be breaking in a first-year quarterback in 2024 in the first year in the SEC. That's if Quinn Ewers has a monster year and leaves, for the NFL draft early. I don't know if that will actually happen or not, but that would probably be the biggest glaring issue, that if Texas were to, play at the level that everyone's expecting them to this year, and Quinn Ewers kind of rides off into the sunset to the NFL, and then you're looking at Texas having either Malik Murphy, who's never played a college snap, or Arch Manning, who is very, very raw and definitely needs some time in a college weight room, college locker room, everything to get up to speed. So that would probably be the biggest glaring issue. And then the other one I would say probably is if Texas for some reason doesn't, reach or match the expectations and the hype that is expected for them in 2023, it's going to be, can Steve Sarkisian actually be an elite head coach in the SEC? Because I think that's still one of those questions. I mean, I think Sark is a great, developer of quarterback talent. He's a great recruiter. I think that he's done a really good job of instilling a really good culture at Texas, a culture that was definitely necessary and hadn't been seen for decades, honestly. But there's still the question of, can he win? Can he win more than 9 games in this season? He hasn't won more than 9 games as a head coach. And, if Texas for some reason doesn't make it to the Big 12 title this year, then it's probably going to be viewed as a letdown year. And then the questions about, is Sark the right guy to lead Texas into the next phase of the football, program in the SEC? I think those questions will start to be heard after this season. But there are a lot of kind of what ifs, I think, right now. But those would be the two biggest potential questions for Texas upon entering the SEC in 2024.
Taylor Estes, 24/7 Sports, joining us here on Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, the Fan Upstate. Taylor, do you think there's any chance of buyer's remorse either from the SEC on Oklahoma and Texas, or from Oklahoma and Texas joining themselves? We've seen the numbers. Each SEC team is going to get about $16 million more a year, adding Oklahoma and Texas. But I think you're going to have very good coaches losing their job because they can't do better than 8-4. And, there's going to be the championships for Oklahoma and Texas, I think, are really going to be few and far between. What do you make of the long-term prognosis of regret potentially here?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, money talks, right? I mean, let's be honest about college football. It is a very lucrative business if you are in the position of a Texas and an Oklahoma and teams in the SEC. So while I do think there might be a little bit of a, understanding or awareness that it's not going to be potentially as quote unquote easy to win a conference championship as it had been in the Big 12. But I think at the end of the day, money is a big reason for why this is happening. And as you had mentioned, the teams in the SEC, the schools in the SEC are going to be making even more money than they're already making, millions and millions of dollars more than they're already making. So I would probably say at the end of the day, that probably, unfortunately for college football and for fans, that probably trumps the possibility of, not having an easier road to the championship.
Taylor, you as a fan, 10 years from now, if the transition to the SEC doesn't go as smoothly as you would like it to go, do you see yourself really wishfully thinking about and missing the Big 12 and the ability to maybe have those 9 and 10 and 11 win seasons in the Big 12?
If I were a Texas fan, then maybe would think that. But I think at the end of the day, the Big 12 conference, I feel bad. I feel like I'm like knocking all the schools, but there's not really any like destination points that you go to in the Big 12 except for Austin, Texas, so really unless you really love going to Manhattan, Kansas, and Ames, Iowa, Lawrence, Kansas, places, Lubbock, Texas, places like that. I think that there will be kind of a balance for Texas fans that are looking ahead at the future of, okay, yeah, they may not be as great as they were. They haven't been great in the Big 12, let's be honest, but they maybe, aren't the top tier of the conference like they've been in talks of being in the Big 12. But they at least have been able to see like good games, good environments, things like that, things that, you can't get in the Big 12. So that would be if I were, a diehard Texas fan, I'd probably think that way. I'm not really a diehard fan. So there may be some listening that think like, you're crazy. I'd rather have more wins. I don't know, but I just love college football. I love the passion. I love everything about it. So that would be what I would be more hopeful for and looking forward to, even if it meant that the record wasn't as good.
Taylor Estes joining us 24/7 Sports from Austin, Texas, with our Texas Longhorns ACC and SEC team preview series segment today. Taylor, can you bring us into Arch Manning and the hype and the hoopla? And I feel bad for him because a lot of this isn't his doing. I mean, imagine, there are certain guys, right? Odell Beckham Jr. comes to mind, that the spotlight follows them because they want the spotlight. They are the spotlight. Arch Manning is the antithesis of all of this hype and hoopla. He's understated. He's quiet. He's humble. I spoke to his granddad, Archie Manning, recently. And I feel badly for him that all this pressure and hype is upon him. What I'm interested in is the play. What do you see? Is he very green? Is he close to being ready? What do you think?
No, he's very, very green. And, anybody that would listen prior to, him signing at Texas and enrolling at Texas, the plan all along for Arch Manning was a slow introduction into the college game. They didn't want, the Manning family behind the scenes did not want him to go to a school where he would be required to be the guy in, as a freshman or even as like a redshirt freshman too, just because they know that, the competition he faced in high school is nowhere close to even the competition in high school football in the state of Texas, let alone at the college level. And the Manning family knows that personally with, both Peyton and Eli Manning going to Izor Newman out in Louisiana. So I think I feel bad for him too. I agree with that. After the spring game, I think it was the New York Post or something that wrote something about, Arch Manning being outshined by Malik Murphy. And I'm sitting there thinking like, first of all, the New York Post never needs to write anything about Texas football. Secondly, it's like anybody that knew behind the scenes what the plan was not expecting Arch Manning to be even the number 2 guy coming out of spring football or going into this season. So I think, he's a very, he's not like the flashy, wants to be in the spotlight type of thing. And so I'm kind of hopeful for him that he shuts out all the noise just because there's so much surrounding him. And a lot of it's just false. I think there's a false narrative that, there's even some Texas fans are like, is he going to transfer after the spring game? It's like, no, this was the plan all along. It's just that he had such a different type of spotlight on him as a recruit that there's all this attention that came with him when he did enroll. And, again, a lot of it's false narratives just from, outsiders that didn't really know exactly how the Manning family was approaching that recruitment.
Taylor Estes joining us. Taylor, a texter says, Mark, I'm a huge Mets fan. The 69 Mets were the best ever. Remember it well. How old was I? I was 8 years from existing at that point, texter. But one of the things I love about baseball, Taylor, is that money doesn't guarantee success, right? Like the Rays are one of the lowest spending teams in MLB, and they've got the best record in the American League right now. With all the advantages that Texas has financially, why hasn't there been more success?
That's a great question. I think a lot of it comes down to a lack of consistency from the top to bottom. I mean, in the time that I've covered Texas, not only have I covered that was my Steve Sarkisian was my 4th head coach that I covered in 12 football seasons. There was also several athletic director changes. I can't even tell you how many assistant coaches in that time span that I had covered, how many different coordinators. I mean, it was a constant revolving door of change, and change was really the only consistent aspect of the Texas football program. And when you're dealing with a lot of, younger people, 18, 22-year-olds, they need consistency. They need the schedule. They need everything. They need to know what they're getting into. And I think that there was so much unknown and so much change and turmoil going on from like the higher ups at Texas that it just really hindered the success of this football program. And I really do believe that is the case. And I think that, I think it's good that the Texas officials did at least give Steve Sarkisian a bigger contract, like a longer contract, and are sticking to it. They're not going to be like, oh, he's on the hot seat if they lose to Alabama in week 2 this year. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there. I think that the athletic director, he gets it. Chris Del Conte, in my opinion, is one of the best athletic directors in the country. So I think he knows that they need to really keep things consistent in the football program. And I think that is going to be what eventually, if all things go as planned, is what's going to turn around the Texas football program.
Want to close, Taylor, with just, we all hear about, so whenever those lists come out, like best places to live, right? Best cities in America, where we are, we're in a region called the Upstate, and Greenville, South Carolina ends up being on a lot of those lists. I see Austin on every single one of those lists. So can you tell us about Austin for those who haven't been? Is it all that it's cracked up to be? Like, what makes it different? What makes it special?
It's funny you say that. So I think Austin has changed a lot in recent years. Since I moved here, I think in 2006. And when I moved here in 2006, I loved it. It was just a very unique type of almost like a hometown feel, but in a big city. And there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of lakes, around that you can go on. Obviously, there's the University of Texas Athletics Department, the football program. Saturdays in Austin are pretty crazy. The whole downtown area is basically like a gridlock because there's so much foot traffic and everything going on around the Texas football stadium. So it was really cool. I think that it's been kind of changing more to like a California where I came from before I moved here. And I'm kind of like, no, don't ruin my Austin,
Right.
But there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of big companies out here. I think that's probably why it remains on the list. It seems to be a destination spot. I almost kind of feel like, Nashville is now starting to turn more into what Austin was when I first moved here. And now I hear like all these people are moving to Nashville. I'm like, oh no, don't ruin that city too. But, I just think that there's just so much to do. And you kind of get that like hometown vibe in a big city type of life. So it's a unique place for sure. I always recommend people come if they've never come. I encourage them before you ever move here, visit midsummer so you know how hot it gets out here.
Oh, yeah.
But it's definitely a cool place to live. I can't complain too much.
Taylor Gasparestis. She is a tier lead managing editor for 24/7 Sports. She's covered the Longhorns for a number of years. She does awesome work for 24/7 Sports. So great to catch up with you, Taylor. Thanks so much for the insight today.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
And Taylor, so glad to hear your happy and healthy voice. I know there's been some challenges over the last few years, and so glad and grateful to hear you fully on the mend and sounding like yourself again.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that so much.
Take care. Talk soon. Taylor Gasparestis of 24/7 Sports joining us right here on Offsides, the Fan Upstate, leading us to the Upstate's favorite athlete bracket. Sweet 16 commences next. You will not believe the matchup we have to unveil for you. That's on the flip side. Here on the show that gives you both sides. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. All right. You know, it's interesting. This felt like a close vote yesterday. And everyone's like, oh, Mark, this is a tough one, man. This is a real tough one. But it didn't end up as a very, very close vote because whereas everyone said it was close, a large portion of people, it was close, but I'm going to give it to this guy. Winning our final first-round matchup yesterday, all right, and doing so somewhat decisively. And I got the sense that this was as much because of the community impact as anything he did in sports. Congratulations in order to the late Sam Weich, who ousted 5-seed and 3-time NBA All-Star Larry Nance out of Anderson. If you're just hearing this for the first time, what are we doing? We've got a bracket, folks, to crown the Upstate's all-time favorite athlete. Okay? The all-time favorite athlete from the Upstate. And we're going to crown this with your help. When all is said and done, this is going to be determined and we will know. And that's going to happen in the month of July. We now enter the Sweet 16. I congratulate Sam Weich. I don't envy Sam Weich because Sam Weich gets the number 1 seed in the GOATS region, Marcus Lattimore, in the next round. Does Sam Weich have enough feel-good built up in the area to mount a challenge? Also out of the GOATS region, the Sweet 16 matchup is number 2 seed Jim Rice against 6 seed Stanley Morgan. In the Hall of Fame region, we've got an all-Palmetto rivalry affair. Number 2 seed DeAndre Hopkins, Clemson football wide receiver, against South Carolina baseball stud Michael Roth in the 2-3 matchup. Over in the MVP region, we've got 1 seed Kevin Garnett going up against 5 seed Stephen Davis. We've got 2 seed Stephen Wonderboy Thompson against 3 seed David Pearson in the Sweet 16. And then finally in the Rushmore region, we have number 1 seed Betsy Rawls against number 5 seed Al Rosen. We've got number 2 seed Debo Samuel against number 6 seed George Webster. My friends, the Sweet 16 and our Upstate's favorite athlete bracket is set, which means there is only one thing left to do. Kick off our Sweet 16 today with the matchup of all matchups. And folks, before I introduce this matchup to you, I think the very reality that this matchup could be in the Sweet 16 and not the Final Four or not the Final 2, the championship matchup, shows you that the Upstate deserves mention among the best athlete-producing regions in the country. It is simply unheard of. I honestly can't believe all of the names that are from this area. Zion Williamson bounced in round 1. I mean, let's look here at the athletes that lost the first round. Okay, here's who lost: Armonte Edwards, Larry Nance, Clyde Mays, DJ Swearinger, Bill Haas, Sidney Rice, Sheila Foster, Adam Humphreys, Lucas Glover, John McKissick, Tony Rice, Josh Norman, Steve Fuller, Robert Brooks, Zion Williamson, and Anthony Simmons. I mean, if we just had the athletes that lost as the athletes that are from this area, we could still have a great Upstate's favorite athlete bracket. 16 are gone, 16 remain. Folks, we do not pussyfoot around here on Offsides, the Fan Upstate. That's not what we do. We go right for the jugular, and we are going to do that today. As soon as we announce the matchup, you may begin voting. And what I want you guys to do, if you would be so kind, please flood the text line with your votes. If you are hearing this right now, please make sure we get to your votes. We get to all of your votes early and as often as possible, because these participants need your votes. Out of the Hall of Fame region, my friend, what an appropriate title, okay, for this matchup. We've got number 1 seed Shoeless Joe Jackson against number 4 seed Pistol Pete Maravich. Seriously.
It's the all-name matchup, that's for sure.
Yeah, seriously. Is this not the best those guys are meeting in the Sweet 16? Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pistol Pete Maravich. Let's go through the particulars, shall we? Pistol Pete Maravich, all right, played 2 years of high school basketball at Daniel High School, right here in the upstate. Some folks said, Mark, he should not be a top seed because, he was here for a minimal amount of time, wasn't born here, didn't stay here, but he did meet the criteria because he did play high school ball here. That was part of the criteria. Was the number 3 overall pick in the 1970 NBA draft, was a 5-time All-Star, and is the all-time points leader, scoring-wise, in NCAA history. All right, in 3 years at LSU, Maravich averaged 43.8, 44.2, and 44.5 points per game. All right. For his career, he averaged 44 points a game. People have said if the three-point line existed when Pistol Pete played, he would have averaged 60 points a game. His number 23 is retired by the LSU Tigers. He's in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. He's in the NBA Hall of Fame and was a 5-time NBA All-Star, a Hall of Famer on every single level. Pistol Pete Maravich going up against Shoeless Joe Jackson. There are controversies, Diesel, surrounding both of these athletes, right?
Yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Pistol Pete is, he was only here for a couple of years in high school, but he meets the criteria. Is he really an upstater? Shoeless Joe Jackson, the famous Black Sox scandal, where he was accused, again, folks, accused does not mean you're guilty. He was accused of throwing a World Series in which he played out of his mind. And he was accused of throwing the World Series to lose. I don't know about that. Had career batting average of .356. Played for the Philadelphia A's, the Cleveland Naps, and the Chicago White Sox from 1908 until 1920. He was a World Series champion in 1917. He's in the Cleveland Guardians Hall of Fame, but remains ineligible for the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. What he's not ineligible for is your vote in this bracket. So if you would be so kind, my friends, please get us your votes right now, okay? In our Upstate's favorite athlete bracket, we've got Pistol Pete Maravich against Shoeless Joe Jackson, and we want to hear from you right now on the show. 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. And think about for a moment how amazing it is that these two athletes are in the Sweet 16. Tough decision, right? Tough choice. How do you choose between these two? Shoeless Joe Jackson, died in Greenville, South Carolina on December 5th, 1951. Do you think he would have been proud at what Greenville, South Carolina has become? I think he'd have been beaming with pride. He was born in Pickens County on July 16th, 1887. He was before my time, but believe it or not, my mom and dad were both alive when Shoeless Joe Jackson was still alive. And he's got his own museum, regarded as one of the best hitters ever to play the game. Who do you vote? How do you decide? Shoeless Joe Jackson or Pistol Pete Maravich advancing in the bracket? All right, let's check your votes. Texter says Pistol Pete. Texter says Shoeless Joe. Chris Arnett says Shoeless Joe. Texter says Shoeless Joe Jackson. That's a crazy good batting average. Whose controversy bothers you more? Pistol Pete only being in the upstate for a couple of years at Daniel High School, or Shoeless Joe Jackson's Black Sox scandal? Which one bothers you more? All right, Diesel, it is time for your votes. Who are you going with? 44 points a game. Pistol Pete Maravich played at Daniel High School, then left the area when his dad left, was the coach at Clemson, and then left to coach at North Carolina State University. He left Daniel at that time. That is a shame because I would have loved to see him play all 4 years at Daniel High School. Or do you go with Shoeless Joe, one of the greatest players ever, and perhaps Diesel 1A or 1B on any list of the best players that are not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, neither of their scandals bother me at all. This is back when Major League Baseball players were paid basically peanuts. And you guys know the reason why they were called the Black Sox. It's not because they wore black socks. It's not because they are tainted by this shadow of impropriety. It's because the owner of the White Sox refused to launder their jerseys. So their jerseys were filthy. That's how poorly players were taken care of back in the day. So I don't blame these players one bit for taking money on the side. These guys were not even remotely, not even if you amplified what they make to today's money, they'd still be making peanuts. I don't blame these guys who were really poor for going after some extra cash. And Shoeless Joe Jackson, despite taking the money to take a dive, still played lights out in that World Series. Just because his dad left for NC State, I can't say Pete Maravich, so I'm going to go Shoeless Joe. I'm going to hold it against Pete that Press went to NC State.
So, guys, the reality is in most of these matchups, right, we have a very clear answer as to who was better at sports, right? Who is better at sports? Most of these matchups give us that answer. Al Rosen beat Robert Brooks because Robert Brooks was a no-time All-Star for the Green Bay Packers, and Al Rosen was a 4-time All-Star. In most of these brackets, we have a very, very clear answer as to who was better. In this particular matchup, you have two different 10s. Both of these guys are on the 10 level of baseball, of sports accomplishments. So how do you split up the two? You know, Shoeless Joe Jackson was alleged to have admitted to a jury that he threw the World Series. Well, why would he have said that? Where is a tape of this admission? How could he have thrown a World Series that he played out of his mind in? Right? How could that possibly have happened? And so that is being held against Shoeless Joe Jackson. After the White Sox lost the 1919 World Series to the Cincinnati Reds, Shoeless Joe Jackson and 7 other White Sox players were accused of accepting $5,000 each, which was equivalent to $84,000 to throw the series. In September 1920, a grand jury was convened to investigate the allegations. Jackson's 12 base hits set a series record that was not broken until 1964. He led both teams with a .375 batting average, committed no errors, threw a runner out at the plate. However, the Reds hit an unusually high number of triples to Jackson's position in left field. It was alleged that Jackson admitted to participating in the fix during grand jury testimony on September 28, 1920. Some news accounts quoted this as, "When a Cincinnati player would bat a ball out in my territory, I'd muff it if I could. That is, fail to catch it. But if it would look too much like crooked work to do that, I'd be slow and make a throw to the infield that would be short. My work netted the Cincinnati team several runs that they never would have had if we had been playing on the square." That precise quote does not appear in any stenographic record of Jackson's grand jury appearance. I can only deduce, folks, that you guys don't believe that. Because if that is true, Shoeless Jackson should get none of your votes. Shoeless Joe Jackson, if that is true. Why the hell would he do that? You work so hard to get to the World Series only to throw it? I've got a hard time believing it. But there are news sources that quote what I just said. Where do you come out?
Do you believe everything you read in the news, Mark?
I do not.
There you go.
I do not. I'll tell you my votes, and we'll do that next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are The Fan Upstate. Fantastic to have you guys with us here on the show. JD Wyatt says in YouTube, I played a little baseball in my day, much like Mark's failed dunk story. Oh, it's brutal. Best athletic accomplishment could once dunk a tennis ball, can no longer touch the rim. Still embarrassed about it. He dreads the day he has to pitch to his boys. JD, you got a long way to go. I met your boys over the weekend. You got a long way to go before they're gonna give you any problems. All right, so drink it in. You know, Jackson and I, my bonus son, have a bet on when he's going to be able to beat me in a race. Now, Diesel, I'll take your guess on this, and if you say tomorrow, Diesel, we're no longer friends. All right, so he is 6, and I am 46, and he's fast for his age. But I would say, Diesel, when I'm running at 60%, I beat him, right? 50 to 60%, I beat him. He can motor, though. I mean, he's got little wheels. And so we were talking about this, Angela and I. Angela predicts, and this is deeply offensive to me, deeply offensive, that he will win when he is 10 and I am 50. And I said, there's no way that's going to happen. It's not going to happen until I'm 56 and he's 16. Okay? 16. What do you say, Diesel? What do you say? A fast 6-year-old, you've seen Jackson. It shouldn't surprise you, Diesel, that I beat him now. But keep in mind, every day he's getting a little faster and I'm getting a little slower, right? Every single day. I'm
going to split the difference and say it's when you are 52. And at that point, Jackson would be what, 12?
12.
Yeah, it's gonna split the difference.
52 and 12.
So you enjoy this while you got it.
We're gonna race every month until then, until that time comes. And Diesel, I'm gonna train for this, man. I'm gonna train. I'm gonna do this as long as I possibly can. I want to beat him at racing because I need to honor that and hold to that. Who is my vote, ladies and gentlemen? Can you imagine for a minute that we've got a Sweet 16 matchup of Pistol Pete Maravich and Shoeless Joe Jackson? Shoeless Joe is not a better athlete than Pistol Pete Maravich. He wasn't more successful than Pistol Pete Maravich. He may or may not have committed the cardinal sin in baseball worse than anything Pete Rose ever did. But I'm voting Shoeless Joe Jackson. And I'm voting Shoeless Joe Jackson because he is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And it hurts my heart that one of the Upstate's own doesn't get to be recognized for that, right? At what point does he get to stand on the merit of his own record for his otherworldly career? 356 career batting average. Now, I know there's this Luis Arise guy right now with the Marlins that is flirting with 400. I'll be impressed if Luis Arise finishes the season, one season, with a higher batting average than Shoeless Joe Jackson did for his career at 356. How crazy is that? It's close. And Pete Maravich is the 1-4 seed, Diesel, that I would have no problem winning this whole thing. But I've got an empathy for Shoeless Joe Jackson, and that empathy is leading me to push him forward.
We're early in the voting, but right now, Pistol Pete Maravich winning on the Twitter vote, and Shoeless Joe Jackson is winning in the Facebook vote.
Wow, we're gonna have to see what is coming up. What is coming up there? Let's see here. JD says, Mark, it may be when you're 52 and he's 12. What are you copying Diesel today? Brandon,
good answer. Yes, good answer, Texter.
Brandon Keeler says, Mark Addison and I race every single day, and she's getting faster. Guys, can you give me your submission to that question as well? I'm exactly 40 years older than Jackson. I'm 46, and he's 6. I met him when I was 44 and a half, and he was 4 and a half. And in the year and a half that I've known him, it's become a little bit harder to beat him. He doesn't like to lose. He gets very, very upset. One time, Diesel, he got tears in his eyes and he goes, you weren't supposed to go your hardest, like that. As if, what do you mean I wasn't supposed to go?
It's called teaching life lessons.
Yeah, man. Yeah, come on.
You don't always get to win. That's the problem with today's kids. They don't know how to deal with loss.
So, guys, I beat Jackson at 46 years of age when I'm running at about 50 to 60%. Okay, but he's got some wheels and he's got some moves for his age. You know, he can really motor for his age. When do you think I will lose my first race to Jackson? Remember, there's 40 years difference, right? Will it be when I'm 50 and he's 10? Will it be when I'm 60 and he's 20? Will it be somewhere in between? And again, my vote, Shoeless Joe Jackson. What is your vote? The top 5 at 5 coming your way next. Right here on Offsides, we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. Rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Truly do appreciate having you guys with us. Thanks so much for making us part of your afternoon. Tons of votes coming in. Sometimes, folks, in this business, you think you're going to have something that goes viral, and it doesn't. Sometimes you think you don't have something that's going to go viral, and it does, right? This matchup, predictably, getting a lot of response. Pistol Pete Maravich, Shoeless Joe Jackson, out of the Hall of Fame region. Does this not speak in all of its glory to the incredible job that the upstate of South Carolina does, right? At showing you just how dominant we are as one of the best athletic regions in the country. Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pistol Pete Maravich, who do you guys have going to the Elite Eight? Big thanks to Cole Thompson and Trey Davis for the retweets of this as well on Twitter. All right, my friends, we are jam-packed this hour. Coming up in the next segments, we've got baseball's biggest problem. At 5:40, we've got Truth Serum. And right now, of course, you know this to be true. We have got the top 5 at 5. What is the top 5 at 5? It's the top 5 biggest sports stories of the day. It's the top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstates, Offsiders, the top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's interesting, man. So the most common answers is when I'm going to lose to Jackson is 12 and 52, when he's 12 and I'm 52, or when he's 13 and I'm 53. I am hell-bent to prove all you fools wrong, all right? I just, look, my belly, wherever I go, it's on time, but I'm 15 minutes late. I got to change that, okay? If I can change that, I got a shot to extend this unbeaten streak, baby. And we're going to make it happen. Wouldn't it be something if I got to 60 before he beat me and he's 20? I don't know. I think there would have to be some catastrophic injury for him for that to be the case, and certainly don't hope that happens. I'm going to die trying, though. I'm going to die trying. It is so sad to me, folks, when you have that realization that you can't do things that you just once did, right? Can't dunk a basketball, can't touch the rim, can't beat Jackson in a race. Anyway, hit it.
Friggin' moron.
5.
At number 5. On the show today. Okay. We opened the show today by sharing with you my 10 best athletes in the history of sports. Okay? These are my list. Everybody's list is going to be different, but this is mine. Here's who missed the list. All right? Muhammad Ali missed the list. Simone Biles missed the list. Florence Griffith Joyner missed the list. Jim Brown missed my list, right? What's that song? Your kiss is on my list. So there are some of these guys. Steph Curry did not make my list. Deion Sanders did not make my list. Forrest Gump, hilariously, did not make my list, but here's who did. And I have a word or phrase to describe what athletic ability they had that made them superhuman, that made them unique. Number 10 is Tom Brady, because he's the only guy who's beaten Father Time. Number 9 is Barry Sanders. The dude ran like a rubber band, left and right and stopped and start and forward, and he was unlike any running back we've ever seen before. That was a superhuman ability. Number 8, Babe Ruth, the intimidation factor. The Iron Man status that we never thought we'd see again, but we did. Number 7, Lionel Messi. He's a magician with the ball in his hands, an absolute and total magician. People said, well, Mark, what about Pele? Yeah, Pele was dominant in his era, and I love Pele. Rest in peace. I just feel like if you ask me who is better, more athletic, more skilled, to me it's Messi. Messi's more skilled than Pele. Who's got better ball handling? There you go. Number 6, I've got Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson, with apologies to Calvin Johnson, is the real-life Megatron. Dude is a robot. You know, do you guys are you guys aware of the fact that Bo Jackson has the fastest recorded 40-yard dash time in the history of the 40? Bo Jackson ran a 4.12 40-yard dash. He also climbed up baseball walls sideways like Spider-Man, broke bats over his oak tree legs and over his head, and it was the only human being that's ever lived that had negative % body fat. The guy was literally superhuman. How could he not be on this list? Number 5, I'm going Serena Williams. My word or phrase for her is one of one. She is one of one. There never was one before. There will never be one again. A level of speed, strength, and athleticism that was never before seen at the women's level, culminating in a period of time in her career when women didn't feel like it was fair to be playing against her. She had to deal with the whole, it's like playing a man to play Serena Williams. That's how great, that's how dominant she was. Number 4, I've got MJ, Michael Jordan. The reason, just the GOAT, just the greatest of all time, right? Unlike many guys who can dunk at an elite level, remember Baby Jordan, Harold Miner, remember J.R. Ryder, all these guys could dunk at an elite level. Jordan could actually play at an elite level. And I believe the reason that we never saw LeBron James in a slam dunk contest is because he knows and he knew that would just widen the gap between himself and Michael Jordan. Jordan had a skill that he did not and couldn't bear for anyone to see it. This is the controversial selection of the day. I've got Shohei Ohtani, number 3. Oh, Mark Ryan, no way. Hasn't done enough. No way. It's only been around a few years. Listen, this is not a career accomplishment list. This is not who's done more. This is the best athlete. You only need to see it once to know that you've seen it. Shohei Ohtani is, on a scale of 1 to 10, is a 10-level hitter and a 9-level pitcher. He doesn't need to do it for 30 years for me to realize what I'm seeing. We've never seen that before. It's not about level of fame. It's not about World Series championships. One player in baseball doesn't make a huge difference. And even if you count Shohei Ohtani as 2, that's still the same. Shohei Ohtani is the best athlete who's ever played that sport. His name, his skill is Mr. Baseball. The next athlete, number 2, his word or phrase is lightning. And the athlete is Usain Bolt. Not the fastest man in the world. He's the fastest human who's ever lived. Usain Bolt. And when we talk about the most unbreakable records in sports, I think we're going to be 3 centuries from now. 3 centuries from now. I'll still be talking to you here in the upstate 3 centuries from now, right? Perhaps in some other form. Perhaps not. We'll still be talking about the record that Usain Bolt set 300 years earlier. Unless there's some super performance-enhancing drug that can slide by detection, no one has a prayer of touching Usain Bolt. And my number 1 biggest and best athlete of all time, all right, in the history of sports. I'll give you a hint, my friends. His word or phrase was fish. Michael Phelps. He was not born like you or I, okay? I used to go to this circus called the Jim Rose Circus, and they'd have the guy would put like a needle through his privates and lift a cinder block with it. It was the most disturbing thing I ever saw in my life.
Is that what you were doing last weekend?
That's last weekend. There's a guess. Michael Phelps looked like a fish. The dude had gills. A lot of swimmers, they have the muscular V-shaped body. Michael Phelps' body looked like Gumby. He could throw his arms back and forth without tearing a rotator cuff. And the body looked like a level of flexibility that you'd never seen before in your life. I think he was a human fish walking amongst us. And as a result of that, Michael Phelps is the greatest athlete of all time in my mind. What do you think? Those are my top 10. 10, Tom Brady. 9, Barry Sanders. 8, Babe Ruth. 7, Lionel Messi. 6, Bo Jackson. 5, Serena Williams. 4, MJ, Michael Jordan. 3, Shohei Ohtani. 2, Usain Bolt. And 1, Michael Phelps. Where did I hit? Where did I miss? Next up.
4.
Big shout outs, big congratulations in order for the number 5 upstate high school player in the area heading into the 2023 football season. We are doing our countdown right now on the Fan Upstate on Twitter. Rob Jones, resident high school football expert here, put the countdown together. Number 5 is running back from Christ Church football, Deshaun Reeder. Deshaun posted insane stats as a junior. His value to his team was almost unparalleled. He is recruited by Coastal Carolina and others, can fly in the open field. 6 foot, 180-pound Deshaun Reeder. We will see. We will see. He is a class of 2025. We will see how it ends up for him. But the word is starting to get out on him, despite the fact that he was a single A player, right? Despite the fact that he plays for a very, very, very small school. Do me a favor, if you know Deshaun Reeder, let him know that we have given him a shout, and his post and everything is up right now on the Fan Upstate. Next up.
3.
All right, folks, let us tackle something here in sports. All right. Last night, and I want to ask you guys this. What is your biggest moment of vindication in your life? It doesn't have to be sports, but it can be sports, right? Doesn't have to be sports related, can be sports related. Well, early last night, Washington manager Davey Martinez asked the umpires to examine Reds phenom Elly De La Cruz's bat before he batted in the second inning. And how would that make you feel? Can you please check his bats? We're not used to seeing rookies come into the league and light it on fire like this. Here's what that sounded like.
Home runs on the year. The average major league team has 100.
De La Cruz trying to add to it. He crushes. Upper deck, right center.
Make that 94.
A De La Cruz missile. He sizzled it into the second deck.
Now, that's what happened second. Diesel, do we have that Davey Martinez clip? Okay. Earlier in the game, Davey Martinez asked to see Elly De La Cruz's bat. Here's what that sounded like.
And Elly De La Cruz is now going to be, he's going to have his bat looked at.
A bat check of De La Cruz.
On the knob end.
Does he have some kind of device augmenting attached there that he's not allowed to have?
It's probably a jetpack.
That's just to keep him on the ground so he doesn't go into the atmosphere.
And look, they checked his bat. In the 5th inning, he hit a home run. He got over on the man, and he felt a great sense of vindication. What is in your life? What is your how you like me now moments? Do you like apples? How do you like them apples? What is that moment for you in your life? Folks, for me, quite honestly, that moment came November 6th, 2021. When I got the word that I was going to be on CBS Sports Radio. And it did that for me because in my previous stop in Houston, Texas, some of the hosts there treated me like I was nothing. You know, I wasn't full-time, I was part-time. I did fill-ins when the main guys were out. But I knew that I was the first or second best host at that station, right? There was only one other guy that I thought was kind of like on the level. And the program director was afraid of me. I would say things that would fire up the hosts. He was worried that I would say some things that were controversial, and he never put me on. And it was maddening. And so to be good enough now in a smaller market to draw the attention of CBS Sports Radio and to be good enough to be called up, even though at the time it was only one show, was the greatest piece of vindication I ever felt in my life. You know why? Because those CBS shows air in Houston. They air on my former station in Houston. And I know those guys who didn't pay me any mind had to hear me on my station in Houston. It was a freaking fantastic feeling, a fantastic experience. What is your ultimate moment of vindication in your life? That how you like me now moment. What was that for you? Next up.
2.
All right, at number 2, we've got the Upstate's favorite athlete bracket. How about this for a matchup in our Sweet 16, my friends? And this proves beyond a shadow of any doubt, okay, that the Upstate is among the best athlete-producing regions in America. In our Sweet 16, we have Pistol Pete Maravich against Shoeless Joe Jackson in the Hall of Fame region. We need your votes. There is no distinction you can make between these two guys in terms of how good they were at their profession. They're both 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. Shoeless Joe Jackson his batting average for his career was .356. Pistol Pete Maravich averaged 44 points a game in college, was a 5-time All-Star in the NBA, is a member of the College Basketball Hall of Fame, is a member of the NBA Hall of Fame, right? And there's no distinction to be made between them. So the question is, whose red flag bothers you more? The fact that Pistol Pete only played high school ball for 2 years in the Upstate and wasn't born here, or the fact that Shoeless Joe Jackson was a part of the Black Sox scandal in which he is alleged to have conspired to throw a World Series. Who gets your vote? 71307 is the number to get to us on the text line. Start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. And finally,
1.
folks, look, I am not one that wants to rain on people's parades in any way, shape, or form. I do believe in being honest with you, always being honest with you. And I am happy that we see a lot of hope and optimism surrounding the Carolina Panthers now with Bryce Young. But there is a reason why Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com says Carolina has the second worst skill position talent of any team in the National Football League. Folks look at this roster and think they can be good, but they're talent deficient and they're experience deficient at the quarterback position. I think this Carolina team is 6-11 or 7-10 this year, and I don't think that's an awful thing. There's this pressure that you're supposed to compete every single year, and the Carolina Panthers just aren't there yet. I think New Orleans has a top 10 quarterback in Derek Carr. I think they win the NFC South easily. And as long as we see towards the end of the year growth from Frank Reich, growth from Bryce Young, I'll consider the season a success. How do you define success? A lot of people want to give it a number. I just want to see growth and improvements by the end of the year. And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan and away you go. Invite you to get to us on Facebook and on Twitter at The Fan Upstate. And how about on YouTube at The Fan Upstate? Would you do me a solid? Could you open up your YouTube app on your phone? go to the Fan Upstate and click that little red subscribe button for us. We'd love to have you. We are on camera every single day until 5:20 p.m. And then finally, you can email the show. Mark Ryan, that's M-A-R-C Ryan at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere.
We just had Gary call in and cast a vote for Pistol Pete Maravich. Thank you, Gary. He says, I'm working on trying to become a P1 of the show.
Yeah.
Gary, you're already a P1 of the show, man. You call into the show all the time. You listen all the time. It's all good. Text a word. And he was like, how do I text into the show? How do I, I gave him the number. He goes, that's only 5 numbers. How does that work? I don't know, man. It's witchcraft. It just works. It just works. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. That way it filters down to us. The reason for that is we share a text line with our sister station, 98.9 WORD. If you start your text with the word fan, it like filters down into a special folder to where we see just your text messages.
There you go, folks. So let us get to your votes. And when we come back, I will tell you baseball's biggest problem. We'll tackle that when Offsides continues. We are the Fan Upstate.
All right, texters, YouTubers, Madcraft, Dalton, all you guys. This is the, I think the second biggest total number of people that we've had in the YouTube chat at any one given time. And that's all because of you. That's all because of you guys sharing it out to your friends. We appreciate that. Keep doing it. Keep getting new people in here. And I keep challenging you to that over and over and over again. And I know that you're going to come through. I know that you will. So we've hit 21 today. We want to hit 25 by the end of next week. 25 at one time. That is the goal. That is your assignment. Make that happen.
Logan Simpson wants to know, is this how he gets invited to the cookout? Absolutely. Logan, keep coming back in here, buddy. Keep coming back. We look forward to seeing you in here. Guys, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I love the back and forth, too. I love that you guys are commenting on our topics, and then you have your own conversations going on. It's so cool to see. So cool to see, man. This is organic growth, and it's awesome. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.